everybody. This is Mike Rains, aka Pilgrim Politics, and welcome to another episode of Adventures in HellwQrld. This week, Sarge has been abducted by the Patriots, so I am joined only by the mysterious L.
What's fucking good, my beautiful babies?
So, if we were doing like a kayfabe narrative of this story, Sarge would have been abducted because of the fact that I posted a thread complaining about Twitter having way too many QAnon supporters still on their platform. And this has made QAnon very unhappy with me. I have received a lot of new fans today that have called me a paid shill. They've posted the photos from Der Spiegel of me wearing my mask and my Patriot jersey. I have been told I'm a bad poker player. There's been a lot of
hate follows are still follows. Got to get those numbers up.
Yes. I'm hoping for my number. I hope to get like 13,000 followers or whatever, based entirely off of hatred from these people who are big mad about me posting about this thing where someone's like, oh, this guy's trying to get us kicked off Twitter. And I was like, no, you're getting yourselves kicked off Twitter. I'm asking for Twitter to uphold their terms of service, which is that you can't promote misinformation, QAnon, and vaccine bullshit. And basically, after Twitter got rid of a bunch of big names right after 1/6, they were like, our work is done here. And they washed their hands of it. And like literally when I started this thread, or when I said I was going to start this thread, I was like, hey, people, if you know any QAnon accounts with more than 10,000 followers that get like reasonable engagement, send me a DM or send me a screenshot. I was overwhelmed. Like so many people were like, oh my God, you have no idea how many QAnon promoters are still on this platform. And I was like, wow, because I've been living on Gab and Telegram for so long. I had no idea that my backyard was now infested with these people again, and that Twitter wasn't the safe space that everyone told me it was. So that
you just need to really lean into it, and just like we need to get fucking shirts made up that say like Twitter doesn't ban people, I ban people.
Oh God, yeah. If I just gave myself if I just declared that I had the ban hammer and I had the ability to remove these people from Twitter, and it was like my doing, oh boy. The amount
we need to get you like a red check mark on Twitter to let people know that you've got the real juice.
Oh, I just thought of it because do you remember that the year, whatever it was, where Best Buy had the guys in the yellow shirts that would check your receipt against your shopping bag to make sure you weren't stealing shit from them? And everyone was like, is it legal for Best Buy to be doing that, to like harass me on my way out the door? And then eventually they got the message that it was like such a bad look for them to be doing that, they stopped doing it. That's what I need. I need a yellow check mark. I need to be the asshole security guard of Twitter that's like scanning your tweets to make sure you're allowed to still be on the platform.
I love the idea that their like inventory like control was to have somebody like stop you at the door to look through your bag, to match it with your receipt, to make sure you're not walking out of there with stuff you didn't pay for. But like, what are they doing to the people that are walking out with no bag and no receipt, and their pockets are just lined with Best Buy merch? Like, certainly they can't just throw their hand in your chest as you were walking out the door and just be like, hey, I'm going to need to search your pockets. It's going to be like, you're going to need to fucking get away from me before I knock your teeth out.
Yeah.
Like, you were not even a rent-a-cop. You were a Best Buy employee. Get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, enough talking about me. Let's play a content warning and then get into the real stuff.
Content warning. The Adventures in HellwQrld podcast talks in depth about QAnon, which means we have to talk about all kinds of child abuse and violence against people. Listener discretion advised.
Well, you know, they say there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? Like back in the day, they were just like, any publicity is good publicity. But that was before the Me Too era. So go ahead and ask Harvey Weinstein about that. Or if you're looking for something a little more topical, you can just go ahead and ask Mr. Mark Zuckerberg and the folks over at Facebook, because they got their whistle blown real hard this week.
Yes, they are our headline story in Q's in the News.
From the digital headlines to the digital front lines, it's Q's in the News.
So the whistleblower came out and said that basically everything bad in our world is because of Facebook, and they just look the other way when it comes to right-wing misinformation, like vaccine crap and QAnon, and that a lot of the planning for 1/6 was kind of done on Facebook and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
And
like specifically, is it the whistleblower? Like she was like the head of or on their like ethics committee or whatever,
yeah,
and then like during the election, Facebook was just like, oh, geez, a lot of real heated rhetoric happening. We need to get an ethics committee to make sure that we're like trying to clamp down on some of this stuff being posted on Facebook, which they did for a while. And then as soon as the election was over, they were just like, well, election's over, shut it down. And people were like, but wait a minute, no, assholes are still on Facebook. And they were just like, we don't give a fuck. It was driving down our engagement. Time to just like closing time this shit. No last time, and like you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And they just like shut the lights out on the ethics program. So the whistleblower was just like, I'm just gonna steal a bunch of your data and go to the like feds and be like, hey, Facebook knew this shit was toxic and they were doing stuff to try to curb it, and then they stopped because their numbers were going down.
yeah, and that's like one of the things that, I'm not sure if it was directly from the whistleblower, but there were all these like programs about like catering Instagram and social media to tweens and stuff like that to try to create lifelong consumers on these social media platforms. It's like, how do we addict a 13-year-old to Instagram or Snapchat or whatever? Like, because the idea
Joe Camel welcomes you to Kid Instagram.
Right, exactly. I mean, it was this really dark place where I think you said it like a week or so ago about how tobacco companies, they kill their customers in a very long period of time, and that's so you get a lifetime out of that customer buying cigarettes. So now social media platforms want a lifetime of engagement with you, the consumer, and they want that engagement to start earlier and earlier and earlier. They want you hooked into the matrix as quickly as possible so they can make their money off you.
Do you think those are memes you're posting?
Exactly.
Neo, do you think that keyboard cat really exists? Like, whoa.
It'd be so great. Yeah, you just have this basically, and then that's the thing about is so funny about this is that these social media platforms are so predatory and so ruthless and so out to make a buck. And again, the whistleblower was just like, "Hey, Facebook, these bad people are doing a bad thing," and it's like, "Well, let them, because we want our numbers to go back up so we can make it rain." And it's just like, Mark Zuckerberg, you're a multi-billionaire. Like, how much more money do you need? How much of America are you willing to destroy to make the fake numbers in your bank account bigger than they already are? Like,
well, I mean, he's like a goon and a robot, so it's easy to make fun of him. But like, you know, the real answer is that like it's not Mark Zuckerberg whose pockets we're lining. It's like, you know, it's all the fucking shareholders and investors in Facebook. Like they're like, it's not like all the shit isn't going down so that Zuckerberg can like buy another Porsche to throw on his pile that he has a throne on top of. You know, it's so that like fucking John Q, whoever, who has like 10,000 shares of Facebook stock, he can buy a new Lambo for his pile.
oh yeah. The entire system is like so corrupt and terrible, and just the idea of Facebook being this publicly traded company where what they're selling is consumer data to advertisers to make money off of them, and the only way they can get more data off of you is by getting more engagement from you. So finding ways to ensnare you in their spider web is how they get the ducats flowing. It's just so creepy and malevolent that for the longest time, I mean, QAnon themselves have hated Facebook in perpetuity. They always Q railed against Zuckerberg all the time. There's so many Q drops where he mentions Zuck or MZ because he has to speak in code. I just did a search. There's like 9 Q drops that have MZ in them because he's just like, I gotta use the initial code. It's so tricky.
Yeah,
But
could be anyone.
yeah, It could be Mike Zebra, which was one of my stage names that I didn't go with because it's awful and bad. I mean, it's so mysterious and nebulous. It's why it's how you got to connect the dots to figure out the hidden truth. That's the whole game of QAnon. But they have talked about Facebook being destroyed since basically the creation of QAnon. That Zuckerberg and this monolith of evil that he's created needs to be torn down. So, of course, when this whistleblower shows up and starts talking about how bad Facebook is, QAnon rallies to hate her because of the fact that she's just like, yeah, Zuckerberg was totally okay with more right-wing disinformation, more turning a blind eye to QAnon stuff, anti-vax stuff. The stuff that QAnon's supportive of, Zuckerberg was also supportive of in a way because he just didn't want regulation on it impacting the bottom line for his shareholders. So suddenly QAnon had to thread this very weird needle where they have to hate Facebook, but they also have to hate the whistleblower at the same time. So one meme I saw literally said that the whistleblower was a false flag. She was a Facebook employee lying about Facebook because Facebook wants to censor QAnon and anti-vax and all this other stuff. So she's literally just giving the talking points that Facebook wants out there. So when they crack down with further censorship, that's what Facebook always wanted in the first place.
I read on the internet that she was both homosexual and transgendered. And I'm just gonna spoiler warning for the listeners out there. The thing I read on the internet did not use those terms.
Of course not. Yeah, that is
QAnon has sort of like a, let's just say, Chappellian view of transgendered folks, where they're not exactly super nice to them.
Oh man, new QAnon hero Dave Chappelle. Let me tell you about that. Oh man, yeah,
he's just Dave Chappelle's just out there telling how it is about wieners and vagoos, like. There's only two, like, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam becomes Eve, whatever. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it is so funny how if you say anything these people want to hear, you're their hero. It doesn't matter who you were beforehand. As long as you're on the team now, you're on the team and they love you. I mean, it's just the way this works. So, like, I don't think these people would have known Dave Chappelle or if they would have tolerated him in the slightest before. But now that he's coming out on the side of Team J.K. Rowling and all this crap, suddenly he's their boy. And it's just, I mean, man.
Do you suppose that if J.K. Rowling wasn't a TERF, that QAnon supporters would insist that she herself was transgendered?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I really, because
that's sort of their bag, right? Any famous woman has a penis and is actually a male posing, like a male cross-dresser. That's sort of like what their deal is, right? They're just like, oh God, Michelle Obama, like a powerful, confident woman. Clearly, she's a man with a big swinging wiener because she's got confidence and success. And it's like, no, she's a woman, just like a biological woman, just doing it, getting it done.
Yeah, yeah, that's their thing. I would love to hear them claim that any woman who basically wasn't one of Trump's wives or Ivanka is an actual cisgender woman. I would love for them to actually agree on one woman on Earth being an actual cisgendered woman, born a woman, all that, as they would say, and all that kind of stuff. It is just so.
I think AFAB is like the most politically correct term at the moment, right? Assigned female at birth, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, that'd be right.
We got to get better about throwing out AFAB and AMAB. Let's do this.
Yes. It's just that. It's just so funny that. I don't know what they think the biological skew of humanity at birth is. I mean, you listen to them and you would think that 80% of all people are AMAB. I mean, I think it's just so bizarre. It's like, how many wieners do you think are coming out of all the incredibly small number of vaginas we have on this planet, according to you people? It's just so weird that if you, I don't know, just go around your neighborhood and talk to the people with some kids and the other people down the road of a couple kids and on, you're eventually going to hit like a 50-50 split between boys and girls. I mean, it's going to be in the ballpark of 50-50. But in QAnon land, like when you went to grade school, like 80% of your classmates were boys, right? I mean, that's QAnon's take on gender.
Yeah, I mean, like, and for all of these, red-blooded American patriots that also happen to be, like, big dick swinging, like, heterosexual cisgendered men, we call that a target poor environment, like the old 80-20 split. Can you imagine, like, oh my god, like compared to all of these like extra, like high T level extra straight men, like there would be a riot in the streets. And speaking of riots in the streets, we've got a bunch of extra 1/6 news, because 1/6 is the new 9/11, and that it is the infamous day that will never die. So what's been going on in the world of 1/6?
Well, the first thing that was going on in 1/6 is that Steve Bannon and a bunch of other people in Donald Trump's orbit got hit with subpoenas, and they have all said that they are listening to Donald Trump, and they are going to defy these subpoenas based off of former executive privilege or something. It just some very novel take on how our laws work and how executive privilege actually works when it comes to presidents talking to their advisors in confidence, as it were.
Now, I'm certainly no legal expert. I know you're not a legal expert either, but maybe you'll just know the answer to this question. Typically, if you ignore a subpoena, that is like a criminal offense, right? Like you can be like arrested or something over that. Like subpoenas are not like them politely asking you to come to court. They are compelling you to come to court, correct?
Yes, you can be put in jail for defying a subpoena. You can be literally held in contempt of court, and then you are put in jail until you comply. It's just that simple. They're trying to get you to agree to appear before court, and they're going to induce you into doing that by putting you in the slammer until you finally say, okay, fine, I don't want to be in jail anymore, so I will comply with the subpoena. So
do we think that the Democrats currently in power have the huevos rancheros to actually lock up any of these people if they just whiff them on subpoenas?
That is, I mean, that's the awful question, because
if this was a regular ass person, they would be thrown in jail immediately for ignoring that shit. But I don't have faith at all that Steve Bannon will see the inside of a jail cell if he turns down this subpoena, because I just I like, there's a reason that my name starts with L on this show. It is L for liberal. I'm a liberal. Like, I am Team Democrat in terms of like who I wanted to be in power out of like the shitty two choices I have. But I don't have a ton of faith that the Democrats have what it takes to actually, like, I don't think they have a show of force in them. Like, if a bunch of these goons just decide to ignore their subpoenas, one would expect all of them to get arrested. I don't think a single one of them will be.
Yeah, that's where I am also, and I'm really, really hoping that I will be pleasantly surprised by the Democrats showing spine here and actually doing something about this, because this is really important. We need this information to know what these shitheads actually said and did, leading up to literally an attack on our democracy and an attempt to prevent the certification of an election. This was a serious thing, and I know there are 600 odd people in jail, but those people are huge dum-dums who were the foot soldiers. They were the idiots that were listening to all of these cretins telling them to come to the Capitol on 1/6, to listen to Donald Trump telling them, hey, march on the Capitol and inspire the Republicans and Mike Pence to fight hard for me, and whatever that means, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we need to know what these people were saying and doing. I know, like Charlie Kirk from like Turning Point USA, he had to delete the tweets and other social media posts about how we brought like 5 buses full of patriots in for 1-6, and of course those buses were full of Antifa and Black Lives Matter and FBI agents. So no, I didn't bus in people for the riot. No, sirree, Bob, that didn't happen. But actually getting to the people behind it, the people actually planning and carrying out this shit, is so much more important than worrying about the Q shaman and the Jamoke who put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk and stuff like that. I mean, those people are small potatoes of the highest order. They don't rate compared to Bannon and everybody else.
Yeah, and we also need to we need to set a precedent that no, being the president of the United States does not allow you to just organize crimes with a bunch of co-conspirators and then everything is protected indefinitely because you happen to be the president at the time. That should not be how executive privilege works. Like, oh yeah, I committed a bunch of crimes when I was in the Oval Office and had a ton of help from a ton of people doing it, but that's all protected under executive privilege. Like, that is a wild precedent to set because as far as everyone should be, hoping for, we're going to have a long line of future presidents. Like this America thing is going to keep going, and every 4 to 8 years, we're going to have a new president in the White House. We don't want to sort of give them carte blanche to do whatever fucking crimes they and their buddies want to. That seems bananas.
Yeah,
like my guy is in the White House right now. I don't want Joe Biden able to commit whatever crime he wants.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing about QAnon. These people is they really think that that pretty much you should just be allowed to do whatever you want if you're like they think that we would be in favor of that. That like if anyone wanted to do a bad thing as a Democrat president, that all of us here on Team Democrat would be like, that's cool, we're good with it. They think that there's like no actual morality, no actual standards that we would hold anyone to, because they would never hold Trump to any standard whatsoever. Anything he wanted to do was cool with them because he was the God Emperor, and that's just all there is to it. But what I had seen before this happened was that apparently it was up to Biden, because he's the president, if he wants to allow Trump's executive privilege claim to be upheld, and Biden has said, no, I am not going to do that. Trump's claim of executive privilege is not valid because I'm the current president and I'm in charge of that claim, and I will not allow it. So for the very least, like, good on Biden for that. But now the rubber needs to meet the road here, and these people need to be told that literally the sergeant at arms of the House of Representatives needs to put out a bolo for these people to have them held in contempt if they won't testify. Someone was saying that, like, I saw that Dan Scavino was one of the people that was being forced to being subpoenaed, and that he's dodging the subpoena. I've seen QAnon memes of him in space, like floating in a space station, saying, "Go ahead, try to serve me." And so QAnon, those respecters of the rule of law and lovers of the Constitution, are now like making spicy memes about how their boy Scavino is literally in space outside the jurisdiction of evil Nancy Pelosi.
Well, the problem is that before Trump left office, he initiated a Space Force, which means that in theory, space is in fact in the jurisdiction of us. So go into space, Scavino. We'll fucking find you. We'll get our Battlestar Galactica suited Starfleet Academy members to rocket ship up on a Tesla rocket, and we'll fucking get you.
Yeah, we'll find you. There's no corner of the galaxy the Space Force won't uncover in order to bring you before Congress to testify. We're on to you, buddy. You thought the Space Force was all patriots? Deep state all day, every day. We've converted Space Force leadership to our side. They're now playing for the good guys. # Team Soros.
Yeah, you thought space was conservative. Nah, space is mad liberal, dogs.
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea how liberal space is.
So speaking of 1-6 and a group of Trump's cronies, I heard that some reports actually came out recently about some very much uncrony-like behavior from people under Trump's rule as his tenure as the God Emperor regarding his actions leading up to 1/6. What's the deal with this?
So basically, Trump and our boy Bill Barr, who he himself also was kind of like, I'm gonna resign now for reasons. Apparently, the two of them were letting people know that it's time to overturn this election, that we need to go into Georgia and all the other good states like Arizona and Pennsylvania and try to find some corruption, some voter fraud, and we're going to have to get this election overturned, and we need the good people of the DOJ to back us up and find all this voter fraud and all this corruption. And the lawyers at the DOJ were like, look, we're actually not your personal legal staff. We don't work for Donald Trump. We work for the office of the president. And if you demand we do this, there will be mass resignations across the entire DOJ and basically like disabling the entire agency in an effort to undermine your attempts to overthrow the election. And the main idea was to replace Rosen, who was going to be the acting head of the DOJ, with Jeffrey Clark, who was one of Trump's lawyers, who was working on this bullshit along with that other guy Eastman, who came up with that 6-point memo about how Pence could totally throw the election during certification to Trump if he so desired it. And basically the DOJ lawyers were like, if you try to get Clark in, we're out. We will actually leave. That is a line that we will not let you cross because we know what you're trying to do, and it's fucking bullshit because you're trying to undermine this election, which is not cool by any stretch of the imagination.
It's like simultaneously sort of heartwarming and terrifying to hear all these stories that are coming out of like people actually stepping to Trump behind closed doors. Like, and now that there's enough time in the rear view, we're starting to hear about these people who were just like, nah, we weren't about to let Trump do this crazy thing that he wanted to. Like, no, we decided to just take the nuclear codes away from Trump for a little while because he was a big whiny baby about some shit. So, or like, yeah, we decided that if he was going to appoint this fucking goon of his to like, to this position, we were all just going to fuck off because we wanted to wash our hands of that nonsense before Trump decided to try to do a coup.
Yeah, it's very hard. On the one hand, it's heartening that we had people refusing this shit, but on the other hand, it's just like we actually had a dumb moron attempting to pull off a coup, and that is kind of why it failed, was his own ineptitude. And it's really amazing when you think about all the different things that kind of had to go the right way for this all to have ended with Trump not kind of becoming a dictator. Because you think about how stupid our elections are and how close the Electoral College was. And in my mind, a lot of times I think to myself that if we had had actual legitimate polling that showed that Trump wasn't a dead duck and that he could have potentially won the Electoral College, that Mitch McConnell probably would have cut those $1,400 checks before the election, and that probably would have been enough to get Trump over the top, and he would have got the W. But thankfully, everyone thought Trump was doomed, and McConnell was like, well, time to get my fiscal conservative obstructionism on, and I ain't going to cut them checks, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't care if Trump wants me to cut those checks, because I know he's a short timer. I know he's out. I know Biden's in. And then the next thing you know, on election night, McConnell's probably like, oh, God damn it, I probably should have cut those checks. I mean, so it's just so wild that we had.
Imagine if the Republican Party could field somebody who was charismatic and had a brain in their head. Oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, like, yeah, it's like if the Republican Party actually had like a Ronald Reagan in their midst, America would be fucked. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, Ronnie wasn't like a rocket scientist or anything, but he had charisma, he was personable, he was funny, and he was able to like play the part of like fake American statesman when he wasn't really a statesman because he was kind of a terrible dude, but he had that in him. And Trump had like the like caveman charisma, but he was dumber than a brick. So we were able to overcome and defeat him because of that. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, if they actually had anybody with both charisma and a certain level of intelligence, that'd be it. We'd be done. I mean, because you got Fox News, you've got all of these, the media we have, you have Facebook. I mean, it was really funny. Like Ben Shapiro was literally whining at Facebook about, hey, all this whistleblower stuff and bark, and you could just like feel the flop sweat like forming on Ben Shapiro's forehead as he was like being afraid that like Facebook was going to take away his algorithm that let him game the system and have the top post on Facebook every day. But you just have this entire system that's like based around right-wing sugar daddies coughing up money to make everybody happy. And if they could only have a charismatic face as the frontman for that operation, they'd be borderline unstoppable. But thankfully they don't have that. Thankfully, in 2016, they had 75 guys run for president, and Donald Trump whipped all their asses by bragging he was going to make Mexico pay for a wall and that his dick was huge.
You know, I hate to break it to you, but you said they don't have anyone like that, and they very much do, and they've been right in front of our face the whole time, because Ron Watkins is that charismatic genius, and luckily for us, he's got some big news coming down the pipeline.
Oh, does he ever? Oh, our boy Ron. So Ronnie boy, first he's in America now, which for those QAnon people who think that Ron Watkins is a red-blooded freedom fighter that loves America. The man's been in Japan most of his life, and really like is only in America because he's a grifter here, and he has an audience of suckers. But at one of his little meet and greets in America, he was talking with some people, and he said he had some big things coming down the pipeline, and be ready because old Ronnie Watkins is gonna just rock this country down to its core because
and every time he's said this before, it's paid off huge.
Oh, absolutely. Never, not once has Ron Watkins made a proclamation and left everybody hanging. And he has especially never done this under his alias as Q, ever. Because he's not Q. Just ask him. He'll tell you that he was never Q. That's a lie to claim that he was Q.
And he definitely never, ever forgot to properly censor any videos that were giving up the secret identity of one of his, like, leaking sources of voter fraud that didn't happen.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Which, and stuff like that might be why in our show notes this says Ron's big news, and this is a quote, other dumb Ron shit.
Yeah. Yeah, he had his big dumb news, and then the other dumb Ron shit that he's been doing recently was he's again trying to expand his brand as being a face of this stop the steal, anti-voter fraud bullshit. So after he went to that winery and cut his WWE promo about big news coming up, you little Ronomaniacs, and get ready for it. He then went to the Attorney General's office of Arizona and went to Brnovic's place and repeated his little ditty that he stole from Johnny Cochran, as it were, where he said, to do what's right, you must indict. And he really loved that. He loved the rhyme scheme of write and indict. And he banged that sucker into the ground. And he could not actually get a meeting with the Arizona Attorney General because he's not an elected official. He's not a citizen or a voter of Arizona. He's a dumb right-wing, influence peddler. he actually is Q, so that would be a really good reason to stay the fuck away from him if you were a serious person who ever wanted to be held in high esteem by regular people on this earth. So,
speaking of Ron being Q, what do you think the odds are that his big news is the return of Q Daddy? But before we get to the 1 year, well, they would call it a delta of Q not saying anything. Like, what do you think the odds are that Q starts posting again? And Ron's just like, my good buddy Q, wink, is posting again.
I really wonder if that's because that's like the only thing that he actually has control over that he could do, because he doesn't like any other quote unquote big news that he would ever have is going to be either underwhelming or one of his dumb projects. I mean, he was working on a crypto coin for a long time. Frederick Brennan brought it up a bunch of times. I think it was called like Seuss coin or Susie coin. I think it was like an abbreviation for like suicide because the Chans are so edgy and all that kind of stuff. But I know that he said that he had like seen some of the programming behind like the Ron crypto coin, and he was like, if you've seen how the Chans are made, if you trusted a crypto from Ron Watkins, you're the biggest idiot alive. That thing would be the ultimate shit coin. So there's no other project that he could possibly attempt to undertake that would excite people or have even a 0.1% chance of getting off the ground. So I think it's kind of like 50-50 if he actually does the whole Q is back, baby thing. But the main reason why I think it's 50% that he wouldn't do it is that Q just doesn't like tickle his pickle anymore. Like, he's the headliner of the Patriot Double Down in Las Vegas. And that's because he's Q, wink, wink. And he wants to be in public. He wants to be the boy. You saw that video. You saw it before I did, apparently, of him punching the heavy bag or the medium bag, as it were, and telling the Arizona Attorney General, you got to fight for our freedoms. He wants to be doing this shit. He wants to be in front of the camera. And if he's the mysterious Q, he doesn't get that dopamine hit from like cutting his promos and being the big boy.
Also, I gotta imagine that he's probably pretty worried about the amount of attention that QAnon has been getting from the government, and but posing his Q behind the ultra secure Chan trip code or whatever. I don't know if it's as ultra secure as you would like if you know that the FBI and the CIA and Interpol and every one of their mothers going to be looking at you.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, you know that it, because that's the thing now is after 1/6 and after seeing that these right-wing grifters were actually able to like do a terrorism, as it were, like that this stuff wasn't just confined to the internet. This wasn't just confined to a bunch of assholes selling Trump coins. It actually led to people storming the Capitol. So the moment Q shows up, everyone's going to be watching you and monitoring you, so you literally can't say anything. I mean, you would basically have to do Q drops telling everyone, hey, everybody, stay home, do nothing, post memes, be friendly, and QAnon doesn't want to hear that shit. QAnon wants to hear you talking about arrests and Gitmo and all kinds of other,
and Durham and Huma.
Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, like they want to hear about you bringing pain and punishment and justice. They don't want to hear you talking about, hey guys, something's going to happen at some point soon, I promise.
Yeah, I mean, for QAnon to come back, or for QAnon never left. For Q to come back, he would have to show back up, dropping some spicy and fiery rhetoric on us. Speaking of spicy and fiery rhetoric, you know who else is in the news? Our good friend Alex Jones. And this time it's for, I guess, a positive reason. At least the net result is pretty positive, because I hear that, much like that medium bag, he's been taking some shots, but in the courts.
Yeah. So our boy Alex Jones, he basically did the impossible. He managed to lose a libel slander case, and he managed to lose it without even going to the jury. He acted in such bad faith when it came to presenting documents and depositions for discovery, and actually like honoring what the court was doing and respecting the process of what was going on, that eventually one day the judge was like, you know what? Fuck you. You have so disrespected this entire process that you lose before we even go to trial. You lose by default. And the trial itself will literally just be a closing argument where the prosecution goes to a jury and says, we need you to give the Sandy Hook families a pile of money from Alex Jones, and here's why we think that pile of money needs to be fucking huge. So, like, that's going to be the entirety of this lawsuit now, is just a presentation to a jury to award fiscal compensation to the Sandy Hook families that have won the lawsuit against Alex Jones because he refused to participate in the lawsuit.
Man is dead, preacher is the winner.
Yes, exactly. It's really... and the thing is like, I remember, I'd say like 2 or 3 months ago, there's like a lawyer guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there's a lawyer that I follow on Twitter who is kind of like a conservative, never Trump Republican who voted for Biden, was pretty adamant that Biden needs to win the election because Trump's destroying America, and that he would prefer to have a Democrat in office than a wannabe dictator. But like, this guy whose politics are not great for me, but were good for at least for the whole Biden thing, that guy was saying, he's like, yeah, I figure that Jones is going to win this lawsuit because, again, it's libel slander in America, and it's really hard to overcome that thing. And I remember reading that and just being like so bummed out because I was like, fuck, really? This piece of shit is going to get away with this? And I mean, I know that guy's like speaking from the outside, doesn't know exactly what the case was looking like vis-a-vis the Sandy Hook parents and Alex Jones, but just that whole thing about the bar being so high to clear for one of these cases, that you would think that if Alex had any brain cells whatsoever, that he would just be like, okay, lawyers, just give them whatever fucking documents they want. If they need to depose me, I'll read a few things and I'll go through the deposition as best I can. And when we get to court, we'll just yell First Amendment. I honestly believed what I was saying, blah, blah, blah. And I got like a 60-40 chance of winning the lawsuit. And just that low level of effort, Alex Jones couldn't even muster up that he managed to just fuck this so royally that like the one kind of lawsuit you can't lose in America, he lost.
He's too busy devoting all of his brain power to worrying about gay frogs.
And as Knowledge Fight would love to say, fighting the literal Christian devil. I mean, those are his two great enemies in our world, is gay frogs and the cloven-hoofed devil that Alex Jones and Antonin Scalia both believed that they were engaged in a titanic struggle against for the fate of humanity.
Oh yeah, Hillary Clinton smells like sulfur. Didn't you know?
Yeah. That was great. I think they actually said that in because Knowledge Fight actually talked to the lead lawyer of the Sandy Hook family after the ruling came down, and I think at one point they made a comment about that like the lawyer should have asked Alex if he smelled like sulfur, if like was he evil enough, being the lawyer, like fighting him and trying to take him down on behalf of the deep state. Did the lawyer have the sulfur smell? Like, how high up the Soros totem pole do you have to go before you actually start getting that sulfur stink on you?
Yeah, so everybody knows that sulfur is the devil's mineral.
Yes. What's God's mineral? What's a good mineral to smell like?
Have we confirmed what God smells like?
That I don't know. I mean, I know that like in the Old Testament, you sacrifice animals to God because it smells nice and he likes it. So I know that there are aromas that God himself finds appealing. So he might smell like that. He might like his own stink, as they say. So that could be it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much from smells, but I do remember hearing that there was a secret chord that if you play it, it will please the Lord. Hallelujah. All right, our last headline for the week. It has been revealed, apparently. I haven't looked too much into it. That's why we have Mike here. I see headlines. I don't read headlines. That AT&T, good old Ma Bell, has apparently been funding One America News, everyone's favorite, completely untrustworthy, not even really a news network.
Yeah, and this isn't even like a thing where AT&T is like offering up like 50% or anything of the amount of money that runs OAN. It appears that AT&T is like just fully funding OAN. That this is an operation that is just like top to bottom, soup to nuts. Literally, just AT&T built OAN out of whole cloth, and that is really weird. I mean, because AT&T also like spends a lot of advertising money on CNN, and they're like playing both sides, but they actually also created pretty much OAN. I mean, it's very bizarre that that what is supposedly this neutral, boring communications network that is AT&T. I mean, they're just literally the people that want you to use their service for your iPhone or whatever, that they've like staked out a like some territory in the far right nuttosphere, and it's really strange. One of the people in the group, I guess the guy that ran the company, Robert Herring, said AT&T told us they wanted a conservative network, and Fox News wasn't good enough for them. So this guy was like, "Oh, AT&T wants a right-wing network. I'll build one for them." And that once OAN happened, AT&T got DirecTV to carry OAN on DirecTV because AT&T owns them. So this is like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I had heard the legends of this back in the days when I worked in a mall and stuff like that. But that Lids store that just like sells hats in every mall you've ever gone to, that like the guy that runs Lids is part of the family that owns the Simon Mall Corporation. So if he tells his family, "Hey guys, I want to open up a Lids in this Simon Mall," they're like, "You got it, no problem. No problem at all, buddy." So like that's basically what happened here. Was this guy started a network, and then AT&T was like, "Put that network on our cable provider because we own the cable provider, OAN, in every DirecTV house in America." So if the mild racism and white nationalism of Tucker Carlson isn't enough for you, we're going to give you OAN. We're going to give you literally like as close to the protocols as you can get without actually talking about the protocols.
Honestly, though, if you're still on DirecTV, you sort of deserve it. If you're still on DirecTV, you're the sort of person that is like the exact right demographic for a fucking like hardcore like conservative extremism propaganda news network.
Hey, what's wrong with DirecTV? I had them for a long time, mostly because they had Sunday Ticket, and I just wanted to watch a lot of football on the weekends.
What's wrong with DirecTV? Oh, how? Let me count the ways. But my biggest problem with all satellite is that it turns out that peak TV watching days are days when it is shitty outside. So those are the days I would least want my service to go out, and that's exactly what you're buying in for if you have a satellite dish. You're just like, "Oh man, it's too rainy outside to do anything. Guess I'll sit inside and watch TV," and it's gone. Okay, nice. Well, that was fun.
Hey, I will have you know that I have many times gone out to the backyard to dust off the satellite dish because there was too much snow on it and it was blocking the signal. And that after I had de-snowified our dish, we had our television back. And I mean,
you know what I don't get with cable? Not that I have cable either, but when I had cable, you know what I never got with it? Homework. I never had to do any homework to fucking get my cable to work. I could just watch what I wanted to watch when I wanted to watch it.
You didn't have to traipse through your snow-covered backyard to get to your snow-covered satellite dish in order to be able to watch TV.
Yeah, I didn't have to like bust out my shovel and dig up a wire and just be like, "Oh damn, the worms got at it again." No, it just always just kind of worked. It was fine. And then and man, now I have the internet, and boy howdy, let me tell you, like no satellite involved with this here internet, and just it works like a dream. And yeah, fucking if you have DirecTV and it's not your only option, like I'm sure there's some rural places filled with people who are certainly not listening to this message, but like if you have any other option and you are sticking with satellite, I mean, you get what you get. You can enjoy One America News. That's on you, bud. You can enjoy One America News and like you know the National Lacrosse League and just like every other like like the tab version of television, like satellite is the RC Cola to cable's Coke. You're like, I mean, technically, yes, this is a soda, but not really.
The one thing that this makes me wonder about is like, man, what a headwind Newsmax has to be facing, and who's bankrolling that place? Because I mean, if OAN literally has like the insider bullshit from like the AT&T getting them on DirecTV and all that kind of stuff, like what is Newsmax's like into getting deals? Because Fox
Amazon.
That would be awesome. Oh my god. Oh man, that would be the greatest thing in the world if it turned out that Bezos was funding Newsmax. Because holy shit, would QAnon turn on them on a dime? Oh, once any bad guy, there's a whiff of bad guy on anything in their world. They're angry. Their betrayal is great, and their hearts are broken.
You would think that they would love Big Daddy Bezos because he's king capitalism.
Oh yeah, Big Daddy Bezos doesn't like Trump, and that's all that matters. Bezos' version of capitalism is communism because he doesn't like Trump, and if you don't like Trump, communism. That's their level of logic. It's not very deep or intelligent, but it's what they have. It's what they're working with.
Man, how awesome is it going to be when Trump dies? He's an out of shape man of an advanced age. I'm not wishing any violence or anything upon him, but at some point he's just going to die from quote natural causes, which is still a funny way to describe death. Like because it's not like you're on a shot clock or whatever. Like but yeah. So at some point he's gonna expire, and man, that's just I sure fucking hope we're still podcasting about this shit when it happens, because it's gonna be a juicy day.
Oh, I mean, I actually think there's like probably a 10 to 15% chance of actual terrorism the day Trump dies, because there are going to be people who will not believe it. I mean, like Trump could come out tomorrow and say that he has some devastating form of cancer, be it like advanced lung cancer, brain cancer. He could just say, look, guys, I got some real bad news from my doctor. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to fight the good fight, but thoughts and prayers and all of that good stuff.
I've got cancer. The doctor says it's advanced. He says it's the most advanced cancer you've ever seen. You wouldn't believe how advanced my cancer is.
Yeah, exactly. And that could happen. And then like 7 months later, during which we see like various different appearances of Trump where he looks more and more gaunt and more sickly. And then after all of that time, Trump like passes away. After literally, and every headline is after a battle with cancer, former President Donald Trump passed away at the age of whatever this day. You would have QAnon people swearing he'd been assassinated by the deep state. Like, even if it was the most textbook battling a terminal illness, disease, and slowly having it eat away at your life force until you die, they wouldn't accept it, and they would believe that just like Soros hitmen broke into his house and dropped him. And
bro, DJT is fucking immortal. He's got so many thoughts and prayers. He's a man made of thoughts and prayers. He'll never die.
Yeah, yes. And that's how these people operate. I mean, they're literally under the belief that their like conspiracy theory, which is entirely based around a very overweight man in his mid-70s, is never going to suffer any health setbacks. That titan of health that, as we've brought up many times on this podcast, had to gingerly walk down a ramp and oftentimes had to drink with two hands on his sippy cup because he couldn't lift it with one hand. Like,
yeah, because his hands are so dainty. He's got tiny, like Lego man hands.
Yes, but like that guy, that not in good health man is the just titan of wellness that will live to be 95. He's got an easy 2 decades left in him, according to QAnon. It's just really wild that like this is their view of their hero.
Hey man, that Regeneron is no joke. It's like 98% just HGH or whatever. All right. Well, so now that we've worked our way through our headlines and imagined a better world where Donald Trump has died of cancer, do we want to go into our mailbag?
That sounds like a plan to me.
Our listeners got questions. We got answers. It's time for Q&A.
Sub-Zero Shirt Art asks, can poker now claim a Q-proof and future-proofs past? And more than 1 year delta on his prediction that Trump would be relentlessly pushing the vaccine, plus taking credit for it. Once it's out, no matter what. Super secret insider much? I'm pilled! So thank you for the intro to all that good stuff. But I had always said that QAnon was going to face like one of two like kind of major breaking points in their existence. And like the first one was going to be Trump losing the election. And the second one would be that if he won the election, they would have to deal with him being aggressively pro-vaccine. And they got around the first one by claiming that he didn't lose the election, but they're really working hard on trying to figure out how to get around the second one, because the second one is a plot hole they can't fix. And I actually a couple of days ago saw like some people getting really mad about Trump being pro-vaccine and being like, this prick keeps pushing the vaccines when he knows what it's doing to us, and I'm not understanding it. Like, why is he doing this? Like, he has to know. There's no good reason for it, and I won't accept it. And there are people who are like, you're saying that I'm a black pill and shill because I'm mad about Trump and the vaccines. Well, I'm sorry, I'm questioning your narratives. And it's like, well, the narrative is that Trump is God and he's infallible. And yes, you really can't question that narrative if you want to still be on the team. Like the entire point of being on the team is that you have to be pro-Trump 100%. And when Trump breaks the rules, you have to apologize for it. You can't ever hold Trump accountable for doing a bad thing. That's just against QAnon's principles.
Yeah, I mean, he's Teflon Don for a reason. He's just like the master of it. Just, you know, when he was in office, it just seemed like he was literally untouchable, and his behavior was completely beyond like legal reproach. And now that he is no longer the president of the United States, he's just sort of being carried on this wave of people that still have like true believer faith that every word out of Donald Trump's mouth is the gospel, and that he is like some sort of hyper evolved being, despite the fact that he's got tiny Lego man hands and like allegedly a small mushroom shaped penis, and like can't walk down a ramp, hair looks ridiculous, skin looks ridiculous, is old and fat,
doesn't know how to apply makeup, looks like a clown from a rodeo.
And again, I'm not trying to say, I'm saying all this stuff as somebody who's in a similar boat to Donald Trump, because I am also not the best going down a ramp. I am also overweight, and my hair is also ridiculous. So, like, I'm not here saying that I am an Adonis, but I don't have a group of sycophantic assholes like constantly hanging off of my every word, unless you count our listeners. Hey-o. I love you, babies.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for the question, Sub-Zero.
Yes. So up next is a little Lapin Loopy Loo, eyeball emojis, hourglass, explosion emoji. Says, I have one. After Jim Watson made his Senate testimony appearance, Benny Thompson and his staff were threatened. The guy got charged, but whatever happened? So I looked at this, and it looks like the wheels of justice are grinding incredibly slowly, and that like some schmuck named Newton Wade Townsend is the guy, but I cannot find any information about him actually standing trial or anything going on. Like, just this guy got on Facebook, started threatening some people on the 1-6 committee, but not the 1-6 committee, but on the Jim Watkins needs to tell us about 8chan, because all these mass shooters keep posting manifestos on his message board, but literally every headline is from June 2020, and yeah, so this I really have no idea. It's been over a year since this guy was arraigned, so you would have thought something would have happened, but maybe he's just like such a small a fish that maybe there was just like he pled out, got probation or whatever, and no one bothered to cover it because some dipshit making a thread on Twitter or social media, it doesn't tickle anyone's fancy, even though, again, this is QAnon and we know what they're capable of. But it's weird. It's just a weird thing where this guy did a thing and got charged, but it's very unsatisfying because there's no payoff. It's like the Matt Gaetz bullshit. Although the good news about the Matt Gaetz bullshit was apparently the guy that was going to be sentenced for cooperating has once again asked for a 5-month extension on his sentencing because he's cooperating too hard, and they need another half year for the cooperation to continue. So that I'm hopeful on that front, at the very least, that maybe everyone's favorite pederast in Congress that QAnon supports, because they really actually don't care about pedophiles. They just hate the people they hate. They use pedophilia as an excuse. That maybe that prick will actually face real justice.
We need to get that man some like swirly triangle cufflinks or whatever, and then maybe we can win. Maybe we can win some of this QAnon nuts over to our side.
Oh, that'd be so great! Oh man, we get Matt Gaetz some we get him some like silver cufflinks with like blue swirls on them, and he just thinks they're cool, and he wears them, and then boom, he's out of the club. That's like actual evidence, like the Venmo payments and all the other stuff where he's like literally texting like a 17-year-old girl and being like $500 for not sex, eggplant emoji, like tongue emoji, peach emoji, like that doesn't do it for QAnon. That's false flag. That's deep state. But if Matt Gaetz was wearing some swirly cufflinks, pederast, 100% pederast.
Or like a butterfly. Can we go to wear a butterfly? That'd be great.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be awesome. I would be.
Or maybe just have like an actual literal butterfly like land on him randomly during a photo op or whatever, and then just be like, "Oh, that's it for Matt Gaetz." That's it. That's it for Matt Gaetz and all the forehead he brought to the party with him.
Yes, and it is ample. It is an ample quantity of forehead. So I am sorry that I didn't have a really great answer for your actual question, but I hope riffing on Matt Gaetz was worth it. So thank you for the question.
Yeah, I certainly had nothing for the actual question because I don't know who any of those dinglings are. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So Klutz Zero, we have a lot of zeros in our audience, says, do you think Trump would actually act on anything these guys told him if they ever got to have a meeting with him? These guys being Clay Clark and an associate. And then he links to the thing that a whiteboard sits in Clay Clark's office. Clay Clark has been organizing a lot of Q conferences under the moniker Reawaken America Tour. Oh God, yeah, this guy. I've seen the whiteboard. It's just your standard Glenn Beck, Always Sunny in Philadelphia conspiratorial bullshit. So like. I don't think Trump would actually do anything for these people because Trump never does anything for anyone if they don't give him tons of money. So I think he would humor them, but I think like the who is going to do what for whom, like loyalty to Donald Trump is always a one-way street. You're helping out Donnie Two Scoops, or you're not helping, or nothing's going to happen at all. So I think that guy would need some serious pay to play, as it were, in order for him to be able to do anything. I mean, now if Mike Lindell were to break off some of that My Pillow money for Donald Trump, then maybe he'd get the ball moving. But I don't see random idiot rabble rousing on the internet being able to actually sway Trump.
They just need to organize a Republican celebrity golf tournament, which would like appeal to Trump's love of doing golf instead of working, and also his being the most successful and popular person in any given room. Because as we've gone over before, Republicans have no good celebrities. All their celebrities are has-beens who suck.
Yeah. It's like Donald Trump and John Voight, and it's like, ooh, man, that's
James Woods and God, who's the lady from Cheers? I'm spacing out her name right now.
Kirstie Alley.
Oh yeah, Kirstie Alley's there. She remember back when she was famous in like 1988 or whatever. That's so good.
Yeah. Oh god.
The Nuge. We I feel like we always end conversations of Republican celebrities by one of us just saying the Nuge.
As well we should. I mean, he's the timeless classic of just a dumb, useless Republican who gets way too much press for his Republicanism, and like that's all he's famous for now. I mean, and not shitting himself to avoid the Vietnam War and probably being a pederast. And you would think that ducking military service and liking young ladies would be disqualifying for him, but no. Again, QAnon doesn't care about anything. They're totally.
I mean that's the Donald Trump story. So they gotta love that shit because their boy does it.
Yeah. Scareman Walkman asks, at what age should someone stop trick-or-treating, and when did you stop?
I think like I sort of ironically kept trick-or-treating until I was around 13 or 14. But honestly, I think you should once you're out of middle school, I think it's like your last year of middle school should probably be the last year of trick-or-treating. Because I mean, well, I'm not sure if it's like the same way now or, because I'm not in touch with the youths or whatever, but I seem to remember that by the time I got into even my freshman year of high school, I was starting to learn like the pleasures of adult stuff, like that I wasn't supposed to have access to yet, like, smoking weed and trying to like hook up with girls and like underage drinking and, just like getting into like actual like teenage shenanigans. And at that point, it's just like, it seems sort of weird to go from like being like, yeah, I'm going to go fucking smoke a blunt and try to like get some head to like, I'm going to go knock on some stranger's door for candy.
Yeah.
No, the Adventures of HellwQrld podcast does not support any of the underage stuff Elle just described. That was Elle's personal childhood experience. It does not necessarily reflect an endorsement on behalf of either of us or the podcast.
Our official editorial stance is obey the law.
Yeah. Please no underage head giving or receiving at the behest of the Adventures of HellwQrld podcast.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, so I think my last year, and honestly, like, I think the last year I did it. So this would have been around the turn of the millennium or whatever. I think like the last quote unquote costume I had was just like a woman. I just like had access to a wig and a dress, and I was just like, meh, like whatever, YOLO. Just like throw on the wig and the dress, and just like went out to get some free candy or whatever. I think I made it through like the houses in my neighborhood and came away with like, a quarter of a sack of candy, and I was like, I'm fine. And then like and then I went to go get into like shenanigans. So I don't know. Your mileage may vary. I guess it depends on the wholesomeness of your community too, right? Like if you live somewhere in the Midwest where it's just like acceptable to be slightly older and trick or treating, or if you have younger siblings or whatever, like there are certainly excuses that would like, I wouldn't certainly like just be like, you're 16 and trick or treating. Get the fuck out of here, nerd. If you're there with like your 8-year-old sibling or whatever, I'd just be like, fine. Right. but if you show up at my door and you're like 22 by yourself and you're dressed like a sexy nurse or something, and you're like trick or treat, I'm gonna be like, is this a sting operation?
Yeah. I don't remember when I stopped trick or treating because it's really funny in a lot of ways. As a child, I wasn't that into Halloween, and I think I kind of got more into like kind of the spirit of it all later in life. But even then, I'm just too lazy to like go out and get like a high level costume. So I really don't know when I quit doing it, but I think L's pretty on the nose when it comes to like the age brackets for trick or treating. And my neighborhood is very bizarre for this stuff because like one year I will get like 40 or 50 trick or treaters and it will just be a mob scene. And like last year, I think I had 3 people come to my door. And I was just like, wow, and just literally had a bucket just full of candy. And it was like, well, now it's time to earn that diabetes because I just have a mountain of candy here in front of me, and no one wanted it. So,
On a personal note, it's glad to like it's nice to not have Sarge here to give me like fart smelling face whenever I bring up like the actual reality of like sexual activities happening between consenting people in our I could bring up like a sexual maneuver without having to look at Sarge's face wrinkle up like I just mentioned Auschwitz or something.
oh, that Puritan Sarge. Well, I hope the Patriots are treating him well this evening.
Yeah, hopefully whatever stuff he's getting up to tonight is consensual, and he's not getting black bagged and taken to Gitmo or whatever the
Yes, the QAnon's idea of an erotic dream. So thank you for the question, Scareman Walkman. Daniel asks, can you live react to her page for the entire episode instead? And he links to a TikTok video from some woman whose TikTok handle is WakeUpGirl2. And it's an 18-second clip of her talking about the military breaking into Facebook, and that's why it's been shut down. Because let me tell you, QAnon had themselves a few theories about why Facebook was down for those few hours a few days ago, and they were not boring theories. They were not, the server must have crashed or something happened to the routers. Nope, it was, this is it, the 10 days of darkness. We've won, Patriots in control, all that good stuff, and not so much as it turns out.
That has to be like the craziest possible read of that situation, where it's just like, hey, a whistleblower has come forward to say that Facebook has gotten into some dubious shit, and then Facebook immediately goes down for like 12 hours, and all of their like subsidiaries also go down, and their reading on it is just like, yes, the Patriots are clearly doing this. And it's like, don't you guys think that it's much more likely that Facebook is doing this to get rid of all of their incriminating data, or that hackers, hearing that Facebook is fucking evil and terrible, have decided to do some vigilante hacktivism justice on this shit? Like, I don't know how many different scenarios you have to get to before you're just like, yes, obviously this is proof that red-blooded American patriots are finally taking back what's ours. It's like, no, it seems much more likely that this is evil Mark Zuckerberg and his boys deciding to take down Facebook so that they can scrub it of anything that makes them look even worse.
Yeah, I mean, I remember some people talking about how what was happening to Facebook, it felt like what happened had to be coming from the inside, because it was like almost like so surgical the way the company was being deplatformed and removed. And that even if it was a mistake, even if it was like a problem inside their own software, that it would again be internal. It could not have been an external attack from quote unquote the Patriots or anybody. So I think either they had an actual hiccup or a snafu, or they were like, hey, we have to change a lot of stuff in a really overt manner, and we need it done in a really quick way so that when someone comes looking at our books, we can claim it's always been this way. I mean, one of those two options is way more likely than Trump ordered the attack and the swamp is being drained.
Yeah, the swamp training starts with Facebook, because that's what he meant when he said he was going to train the swamp. The swamp is wherever you want it to be. It certainly didn't specifically mean Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Reverend Xenofact asks, QAnon anti-vax, anti-mask types are acting bolder and more unhinged. What are the odds they kill someone over vaccines or masks? And then he answers his own question by bringing up the fact that a Maryland man killed his pharmacist brother because he believed his pharmacist brother was killing people with the vaccine. So
That makes our job easy. Thanks for the question and the answer.
But yeah, this was a pretty grim thing. I have been waiting for like the proverbial quote unquote more news to come out about this, because there have been a lot of stories about person kills somebody in their life because of QAnon, and then like a few days later, like more information comes out about mental illness, that the other thing, and that there were other possible reasons for what happened. But this story on its face right now looks really incredibly bad, because this guy was like freaking out and arguing with his family, and then eventual about the vaccine and how bad it was. And then finally, the guy decided, you know what, I'm just going to kill my brother because my brother knows he's poisoning people with COVID vaccines, and I have to stop him now because he's doing this terribly evil thing. And it's just...
And also, I mean, pretty much every week, like I think this is the first week in a while where we haven't had like a specific segment devoted to people technically killing someone because of their dumb stance on the vaccine and anti-mask bullshit. But the person in question is themselves. So, like, I mean, like, you know, it may sound a little pedantic, but at the end of the day, like, yes, these people have been killing folks for a while now, and like the majority of the time the people that die are themselves, but that shouldn't be discounted out of hand just because, like, you know, even a shitbird like leaves a bunch of like devastation in their wake when they pass on. Like no matter how much I might hate the rhetoric of somebody who believes all this bullshit, when they die and they had 5 kids that they were supporting, well, now those 5 kids are fucked. So it's like,
exactly.
you know, like we're pretty like casually just sort of antagonistic about these people on the podcast because, you know, it's easy to just say fuck them, but like fuck them does not necessarily ripple out to fuck their families that, you know, had no like say in the matter, right? Like if you're some piece of shit and you're raising like a 3 or 4 year old kid, that 3 or 4 year old kid hasn't gotten ruined by you yet. Like, just like, you know, so your death really fucks them up in a lot of ways, in a lot of different ways, that if you were still alive and tried to tell them that like Joe Biden was the literal devil or whatever. But like, you know, so the yes, these people have already been killing folks because of their anti-mask and anti-vax stance. And a lot of the times those people happen to be they themselves in like a weird Twilight Zone twist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that it's mostly been kind of a form of suicide, but now we're actually getting homicides. And I remember someone bringing this up like a while ago, is that any of these like Congress people or any of these like just anti-vaxxers or anyone else, anyone who's arguing against quote unquote mandates, why are you arguing against a mandate when you think the vaccine itself is murderous? Like, just
own it. If you got a problem with mandates, then just don't date men, you fucks.
Yeah, of course. But the low-hanging fruit. But be intellectually consistent. It's like the people who talk about, like, if a woman gets an abortion, we're going to like jail the doctor or the provider of the abortion. We're not going to jail the woman. And it's like, why not? The woman killed her baby. She's a murderer. I mean, own your shit. Own your horribly illogical, terrible worldview. Don't try to make it more palatable to other people by like adding steps to it. There's no point, because it's not intellectually honest. If you think the vaccine's murderous, oppose the vaccine directly. If you think abortion's murder, everyone involved in an abortion goes to jail. I mean, this is what you believe. Like, believe it. Like, just like stick to it. Don't try to sugarcoat it because you know it's unpopular and you, on some level, know you're wrong. I mean, like, that's...
Or maybe, just maybe, they don't actually believe a fucking thing.
This is true. There could just be
maybe they just have no convictions whatsoever.
Absolutely. I mean, that's also absolutely true. So, thank you for the terribly bleak and grim question, Reverend Xenofact. Pancake Peasant asks, I'm saddened to learn that the magical forest ape formerly known as Bigfoot has been pilled. How did this happen? What issues does pilled Bigfoot care about?
Pilled Bigfoot. So one thing is simpatico on with liberals is like wildlife conservation. He's not exactly looking for a big pipeline to be like put through his home or whatever. But he doesn't like these fucking tech companies getting up in here, making their big monopolies, just giving everyone access to cameras to take pictures of his blurry ass when he's just trying to take a shit in the woods. He's not a big fan of that. He loves guns, like you read about, because he's a woodsman. He wants to be out. What he does on his property is his own business. He doesn't believe federal. He doesn't like federal government. He feels like Washington State, where he is from, should be in charge of his territory or whatever. Just general conservative talking point shit for the most part. As for how he got pilled, I'm assuming it has to have been literature that he found while raiding camps of people getting up in his territory. Because I don't think they get very good reception in the woods unless they've got direct TV, and even then they get even worse reception. Boom, roasted.
So do you think he found a bunch of chick tracks? Do you think that like he became like kind of like a really hardcore Christian because he was like finding out about God through the writings and scrawlings of Jack Chick?
I think if he found any tracks, he was just following regular Bigfoot tracks of like one of his friends through the woods, and then there were two sets of them, and then there was only one set of them, and he was like, "What?" And then his friend had to explain that was when Jesus was carrying him.
Oh,
like,
right.
Oh shit! He was like, "Oh shit!" Like, yeah. So take a cast of that the next time you're up in the forest of the Pacific Northwest. You're just like, "Oh shit! I think I found a Jesus track." And I'm pretty confident that the Jesus in this case was carrying a pilled Bigfoot. You take that back to your family during your Thanksgiving and have them just be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Aside from the word Bigfoot, everything you just said there was gibberish.
Yes, that would be the greatest thing ever. So the Ghost of Dipset asks, did the Facebook outage fizzle out immediately, or have you seen any prominent QAnon grifters still hanging on to it? I know Sather turned on it, but that's all I've seen. The big thing about QAnon is that anything is the biggest news in the history of the world, and then a few days later, it's completely forgotten about. Everything to them is ephemeral. Everything is just about getting that dopamine high for a person for a few moments, and then you just go back to your life the way it was before. Nothing ever changes. So yeah, it was a pixie stick. It was just a little bit of sugar down the gullet, and then we're moving on. So that was really about all there was to that. Thank you for the question. And lastly, Doctor initially says, what is your prediction of QAnon / Save the Children adherence when the FDA authorizes the COVID vaccine for children? That happened today. It happened like a little while ago. I haven't seen a lot of reaction. I literally saw one dumb, angry guy whine and say, "Hey, Pfizer, don't touch those fucking kids." But that was it. Like, because they really can't have an answer for this stuff, because when QAnon suffers a big L and it's just obvious that they lost, they don't like talking about it because it ruins their whole narrative, which is kind of like optimism and we're winning and Patriots in control. So when something like this happens and they just get like just absolutely kicked in the groin, they don't really have a good explanation for why this is a good thing. And it's going to be double plus worse when Trump has a rally and he's like, "Hey, you should get your kids vaccinated." I mean, that's going to absolutely drive them up a wall trying to explain and justify that. But for the most part, they don't have their talking points yet, and they don't know what to say about it, because when reality is mean to them, it takes them a long time to try to rationalize it. I mean, they still are trying to rationalize why Biden's the president. When things don't fit their narrative, it takes a lot of work for them to explain why the narrative is why reality is the way it is now, and why the narrative isn't being adhered to. is basically the answer to the question.
They're going to sit on it for a while before inevitably determining that Facebook was secretly a man the whole time.
Yes, exactly. So that is the questions for the week. So that leads us to the question and numerous from Scareman Walkman, which is, what are you looking forward to?
Sleeping. I'm sure that it is probably carrying through the microphone, but we are recording late tonight, and I'm fucking exhausted. So if people are just like, man, Elsie's a little like sluggish on the punchlines and a little punchy this week, especially for having to carry the burden of no Sarge. Well, then you're right. It's because I'm fucking very tired. So after we're done recording, I'm going to lay down and I'm going to enter the Odin sleep, and I'm going to recharge my batteries, and then I will go back to maximum levels of being a snarky asshole.
I'm looking forward to just more sports ball fun. It's I'm not a big fan of baseball, but knowing that I'm going to have a sports book full of people agonizing over every play, and then I'm going to listen to all these idiots in the casino talking about how they got the Stone Cold Lock of the Week, and there's no way anyone's beating the Dodgers kid and all that kind of stuff.
Keep talking about baseball. This is going to put me right to bed. There we
go.
This is the ticket. Like, fucking sweep me away, Sandman.
Just guiding you into the arms of Morpheus, as it were.
All right. Well, on that pleasant note, it is time for me to hit myself and Mr. Mike Rains with the little bit of morphine, put us right to sleep, and that way we can escape HellwQrld into the land of our dreams, where hopefully we will encounter no Frederick Krugers, because 'tis the season for that sort of stuff. Thank you for sticking by us on this two-man show, and just in general, thank you for supporting the show. If you like what you're listening to, you can support us for free, no money down, by telling a friend or giving us a 5-star review, or giving us a thumbs up, or whatever the fuck they want you to do to increase engagement on whatever podcast platform you happen to be listening to us through. If you have some money and you'd like to support us, you can do so by visiting our Patreon at patreon.com/pokerpolitics, where you can get access to a slate of bonus episodes by donating at the $5 and above tier. We're talking series like Kabbalin, The Foulest Deed, Mike Rain's Untitled History Podcast, allegedly at some point Sarge's Conspiracy Corner, although that's been slow, and at some point, probably during this month, we are going to make time to record the binge-wordy Adventures in HellwQrld crossover podcast, Where We Go One, We Go Squall, where the gang's going to sit down and watch White Squall and discuss it, because that's where QAnon's dumb catchphrase comes from. So go ahead and join us by donating at the Patreon. Like I said, you can get all of that stuff for $5, including including. That means that you will join the illustrious company of this week's beautifuler babies, ex-Wayfarer and Chris G. So thank you very much for your support, folks. If you have money and you don't want to give it to us, you can donate it to a good cause at love146.org. They're an organization whose vision is the end of child trafficking and exploitation, and that is in their own words. As always, I would like to thank DJ Minimal Effort for supplying our intro theme song. He is too cool for social media, but we still like to shout him out anyway because he's just generally a rad dude. Our buddy who does the voice of Q when it's necessary, but you will most likely recognize from doing our content warning at the top and all of our bumps, is our voiceover friend Frosty. You can find him on Twitter at FrostyVO. Sarge and I have a podcast when he hasn't been abducted by Al-Qaeda. And that podcast is called Binge Wordy. We discuss pop media, so if you can't get enough of my quickly fading as I get more exhausted voice, you can go over there and join us for Spooktober, where we are watching scary movies this month. I'm going to be forcing Sarge to watch The Happening, so you can come listen to me and Sarge discuss The Happening this week over at Binge Wordy Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Binge Wordy, BINGEWORDY. So, for another quote-unquote successful episode of the best... I almost got the name of the podcast wrong. I'm fading so fast. The Adventures in HellwQrld podcast. I've been your host, L. No co-host Sarge this week, but I will sign off for our QAnon expert and expert in all things conspiracy and conservative related, Mr. Mike Rains. Good speed, Patriots!